Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are taking on a genuinely massive, absolutely fascinating challenge. We're going to act as conceptual architects. Basically, we're building a bridge from the rock-solid bedrock of particle physics all the way up to the deepest, most elusive mysteries of the human mind. So we're taking concepts that usually feel totally abstract or just impossible to grasp, and we're organizing them into one clear, unified framework. I mean, think about it. Every civilization in human history has stared up at the stars and wondered, what actually is reality? Why does matter even exist? And maybe most profoundly, why do we experience this life? For thousands of years, spiritual traditions, philosophers, and now modern physicists, they've all approached these exact same mysteries, just from entirely different angles. And that brings us to the central mystery of our explainer today. Where do thoughts actually come from? Are they really just, chemical sparks in the dark, or is there a much deeper structure at play here? Now, I want to be super clear right up front. Our goal today is absolutely not to replace hard science with mysticism. Not at all. Instead, we're trying to build an organized blueprint. We want to see if these wildly different perspectives can actually lock together into one coherent architecture. So here's our blueprint for today. We'll start with part 1, the foundation of reality, then part 2, the consciousness field analogy. From there, part 3, the brain as interface, part 4, architecture of awareness, and finally, part 5, the complete conceptual blueprint. Let's dive right in.
Part 1, the foundation of reality, the Higgs field.
Okay, so we're starting at the very bedrock, and we are planting ourselves entirely within the realm of proven, established scientific consensus here, looking at one of the greatest discoveries in modern physics. To build our conceptual building, we first have to understand the Higgs field. Now, according to the standard model of particle physics, this isn't a physical object. It's not a rock or a planet. It's an invisible, universal ocean that constantly permeates all of space, literally everywhere. Every single elementary particle, from electrons to quarks, travel through this field. And the amount a particle interacts with this field, that determines its effective mass. And here is a totally mind-bending fact for you. Without this field, every particle in your body would just zip around at the speed of light, and you simply wouldn't exist. This concept radically changed our whole understanding of matter.
Now, a lot of people tend to confuse mass with weight. But weight relies on gravity. Mass doesn't. Mass is actually inertia. It's the resistance an object has to a change in its motion. So think about pushing a shopping cart. An empty cart accelerates really easily because it interacts weakly, meaning it has low mass. But a fully loaded cart? That is tough to accelerate. It interacts strongly, so it has high mass. The Higgs field is exactly what explains why elementary particles possess this fundamental property of resistance in the first place.
To put it another way, think about baking. Flour, water, and yeast don't just magically become bread on their own, right? They require the interaction of heat. The Higgs field doesn't literally create matter out of thin air. Instead, it provides the necessary condition for stable matter to exist at all. Without it, atoms couldn't form, chemistry would totally collapse, and biological life would literally be impossible. The particles already exist, but it's their interaction with the Higgs field that allows the stable reality we know to actually emerge. Part 2, the consciousness field analogy, from physics to philosophy. So we've got our physical bedrock. Now we are stepping right out of proven science and into speculative philosophy. If the Higgs field gives matter an essential physical property, well, could there be a mirror principle that gives rise to subjective experience? Enter the speculative concept of the consciousness field. Now, it is crucial to note how we're wording this. We aren't saying this field generates thoughts out of nowhere. What we're suggesting is that thoughts and ideas might already exist as informational possibilities, and this field is what gives those possibilities actual presence. It's what allows them to be experienced. It's basically a perfect conceptual mirror. In physics, the Higgs field gives particles physical mass. In our metaphysical blueprint, the consciousness field gives experiences subjective presence. It's an analogy that really helps us visualize how consciousness might not just be some random biological byproduct, but a fundamental feature of reality itself, one that functions very much like a quantum field.
Part 3, the brain as interface, a biological receiver.
Now, if we actually adopt this speculative framework of a universal consciousness field, it completely flips our fundamental understanding of human biology and the brain. Mainstream neuroscience generally views the brain as a generator. The idea that the complex firing of your neurons literally creates your conscious experience. But in our speculative model, The brain is an interface. It doesn't create consciousness. Instead, it receives, interprets, and organizes it from that universal field we were just talking about. Think of your brain sort of like a computer connected to the internet. The web page you're looking at isn't actually stored inside your monitor, right? The hardware is just accessing information from this massive external network. So if your computer breaks, the internet doesn't cease to exist. Only your connection to it does. In our conceptual architecture, reality flows from the consciousness field right through the brain to create your unique everyday experience. Part 4. Architecture of awareness, mapping the mind. All right, so we've laid the physical foundation, we've set up the metaphysical structure, and we've installed the biological hardware. Now we enter the information layer. It's time to start wiring up our conceptual building and really organizing the abstract mind into a concrete map. To understand this, we're going to borrow a concept from esoteric traditions, the Akashic Records. And again, we aren't claiming this is proven science. It's more of a highly useful framework for visualizing information as a fundamental layer of reality. So imagine an infinite library where every possibility, every thought, every memory you've ever had or ever will have is stored purely as information. The library itself doesn't think, it just stores. But that begs the question, if this infinite library of information exists, why on earth don't we experience all of it at once? Well, think of the awareness plane as your library membership card. It's an access layer that dictates exactly what information you're actually authorized to pull from the shelves. And the consciousness field? That's like the sunlight streaming through the library windows. The sunlight obviously doesn't create the books, but it illuminates them so you can actually sit down and read them. And much like modern computer networks, this library likely relies on some deep information security. We're talking permissions, authentication, and an underlying code composed entirely of informational relationships. So, as an architect of your own mind, how do you actually navigate this? Well, instead of viewing your thoughts as just random, disconnected sparks, you can organize them. You can structure your internal world into distinct, navigable neighborhoods. You know, a district for identity, a specific zone for memory, intricate spaces for emotions, beliefs, and intuition. We're basically taking the utter chaos of subjective experience and giving it a highly structured, systemic blueprint. And the coolest part? This isn't just highly abstract philosophy. You can make this incredibly practical. Take memory architecture, for example. You can blend established cognitive techniques like building a memory palace with hierarchical numerical indexing, almost like chapters in a book. You can literally architect your own mind, spatially and logically organizing your knowledge. And you can do this completely independently of whether you even buy into the metaphysical assumptions we've been discussing. It is just a brilliant, effective way to structure learning. Part 5. The complete conceptual blueprint. Wow, okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've navigated through the dense realms of particle physics, information theory, and philosophy, and now it is time for the final reveal. Just look at how beautifully all these disciplines stack together into one unified master model. We start right at the base with step 1, the physical reality of the Higgs field, which gives particles inertia. Then we step up to step 2, the underlying metaphysics, where infinite information persists eternally in those Akashic records. Building on that is step 3, the experience layer, where the awareness plane selects information and the consciousness field illuminates it. And finally, we reach the summit in step 4, perception. This is your physical brain acting as the biological interface, perfectly translating all of that cosmic architecture right down into your everyday thoughts, memories, and actions. It really is a stunning interdisciplinary map of reality. So, we've built the structure and we've laid the foundation. But the interior design, well, that is entirely up to you. If awareness truly has an architecture, how will you choose to design the rooms of your own mind? Will you leave them cluttered and disconnected, or will you build a structured, beautiful space to navigate your reality? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating blueprint with me today on The Explainer. Keep building and keep learning.